Good evening and welcome once again to another edition of the Truth Tower. My name is Johnny Guzman. As always, a pleasure to be here sharing truth with you. Tonight's topic, meteors, rats, and zodiacs. And we've asked Kate of Gaia, Tony Z, and our special guest tonight is Santos Bonacci will be joining us. Apparently, I think we were having a little bit of a problem with the connection with Kate. So hopefully she'll be joining us in just a few seconds. Anyhow, today, before we start this interesting topic, all these crazy things that are going on with these meteors, and of course, the rats, and our special guest, Santos Bonacci, will be talking about the zodiac, how all this intertwines together. Before we start, just want to give you a quick reminder to get into our webpage, qltelevision.com, and of course, go into our fan page and give us a like. If in Facebook, that's QL Television as well, and our YouTube channel, go and subscribe there, QL Television. Okay, so let's get in and welcome Tony. How are you?
Not too bad at all, Johnny. You?
Okay, so we'll just be waiting, I guess, for Kate to join us in a few minutes. But tonight's topic, meteors, rats, and zodiacs. And again, we've asked our good friend Santos Bonacci. Santos, how are you?
Very well, thanks, Johnny.
Okay, so Santos, let's start this. We've heard these crazy news that's coming from Russia, right? Some people are saying also that in Cuba, some meteors have landed. What's going on? What's your take on these meteors? Some people are saying that they're not meteors. They're some type of missiles. What's going on with these things, Santos?
Well, Johnny, I did see a lot of footage of these meteors. And meteors, I've just discovered a wonderful video production by a gentleman called David Lapointe. First of all, I want to recommend that to people. Please have a look at a video called Prima Fields. Prima Fields. And I've used the science in that presentation to explain how meteors are attracted to the Earth. You can see how they get pulled in with these magnetic fields. And Prima Fields talks about that. So I would just leave it to them to explain, or I would be watching that, and you see, when you understand the magnetic construction of everything, underpinning all the photons and every single wave in the universe, then you can understand how a lot more about meteorites. It makes a lot more sense. But all I'd like to say is that when you see Prima Fields, he explains how two equal and opposed forces are centered around a fulcrum in the middle, and so that would be the photon with its two beautiful, equally and opposite toroidal fields, and inside around the photon or the fulcrum is the area where he calls it in the video, he calls it a confinement dome. And see, energy is flowing into there, photons and particles and electrons flowing into that area. Now, I just keep seeing comets and meteors in that documentary because I see all the particles that are attracted into that dome. And see, every planet and sun and star is sitting in the center of that confinement dome. So things are going to be attracted because they're going to be sucked into that confinement dome that surrounds planets. Leave it at that.
Santos, but these they're saying that there's some more meteors coming. You know, and I think sometime in the middle of the year there's a bigger one coming, and supposedly this one could cause some serious damage. Now, we don't have any idea if these are, I guess, real meteors. I mean, how do we know this? I mean, all we know is that we see this flame shooting across the sky, and you know, and all of a sudden people are, you know, they see a big red ball of light, and there's some damages to some buildings and windows and so forth. But how can we be sure that this is not something that the system is provoking just to maybe create more panic, Santos?
Look, I suppose we can't be sure, and we know that they have the technology, and Tony would be better to deal with that, but we know they have the technology that is way beyond what is revealed to us. So they can do that, but as for meteorites coming in like that, exactly how you saw it in that film, I've seen some of those myself. I've seen about 4 of those in my life in country Victoria, and I've been amazed. I was driving my car one day, I saw this meteorite just like that. I saw it just like that. It probably landed in the ocean. There wasn't anything said about it, but I've seen quite a few. And so none of that I saw in that Russian video was strange at all. I don't know how many times I've seen that. I've seen them burning up in the sky and then just... And then big light, and then they just disappear. I've been lucky.
Wow. Tony, let's get your taking in on this. Could this be also, is it a possibility, Tony, that this is maybe not a meteor, but some type of missile, Tony?
Well, all right. Okay, let's look at the last question first. Could it be some type of missile? Well, if you've got the ability to throw rocks at those kinds of speeds into the Earth's atmosphere, then you wouldn't really need a missile, because the mass and the speed, the velocity, would give you enough power. You wouldn't need to make it blow up. It would blow up on impact and when it hit the Earth. But your first question, was it a meteor? Well, of course, it could well have been. It could also have been something else, which might have been shot down, etc. But I'm not saying it was or it wasn't. It doesn't really matter. It makes no difference. The fact of the matter is, as I was just explaining, we do have this sort of technology that we've got fleets and fleets of ships out there. Now, there's 2 types of people. There's one type of person that's going to understand that and realise that it's true. We do have fleets of ships, and there's lots and lots of different people that have pointed this out. And I can go through a list of those people and what they've found, their research, and where their research is located if we wish to do that. But the point of the matter is we do have this technology, and you either are aware of it or you're not. So not that it makes any difference while you're stuck down here with these things flying through the atmosphere. I say things loosely, 1, 2, 10, doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, are you aware that we could be doing that in order to corral the people into having a fear of meteorites, so that, like Werner von Braun said, and Carol Roslin repeated, that first it will be terrorists, then it will be meteorites, and the very last card, would be an alien threat towards Earth, which is also what Ronald Reagan pointed out in his addresses. But the fact is, we do have technology to be able to do this deliberately. And as for the deliberately card, that's another issue as well, because governments wage wars in order to keep populations down and in order to do many other things. It's called globalism. So I'll leave it at that one for now.
Yeah, because as a matter of fact, I think Santos was the one who posted a video where someone made a zoom on the meteor, and you can see little pieces exploding of the meteor, almost as if someone was shooting it down, right? Or something was shot at it, if it was a meteor. So it's
well.
Go ahead.
Yeah. There's also the matter of when you've got massive amounts of speed and velocity, and you've got a rock or a piece of debris, let's say, and when it actually goes under extreme temperatures, obviously all the molecular structures are all expanding and contracting at different rates. So it's going to get to a certain point where it explodes because it can't hold its own integrity together. So it could be a natural thing. It could have also been shot with some electromagnetic weapons or something else, but I wouldn't have thought that to be a major possibility. I would more have said if it was a meteorite, then it was probably expansion and contraction of the rock itself as it was being massively heated rapidly. It would explode.
Santos, do we have Kate on, Tony?
I'm here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's welcome.
Good. How are you doing?
Okay, we lost you there for a moment, but good to have you.
Yeah, Skype was jumping in and out. I couldn't get a stable signal, so I had to reboot. So sorry about that. I'm here.
Okay, no problem. So we're talking about this meteor situation and all this ideas that are now coming out. You know, you get this kind of news, and all of a sudden, everyone begins to throw in their own opinion. You know, alien invasions. You know, there's some meteors, as I was telling Santos, saying that they were found also in Cuba. You know, these big, huge holes. No one knows if it's a weapon. What's your take on this, Kate?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can look at here with the meteorite or the meteor. It's a meteorite when it hits the ground, but the meteor that came in over Russia. I mean, you've got people talking about it was an S-400, one of the advanced Russian missiles that was set on it. You got people talking about it being a United States Excalibur weapon. You've got people talking about what's the word? I said it earlier. Where they're grabbing it like a what's the word I just used, Tony? I just said it. Tractor beam. Yeah, a tractor beam where they can use HARP and redirect objects like that. They've got things in space that they can use as well to redirect rocks towards Earth. And again, I'll go right back to what Santo was talking about with the primer fields. When you start understanding how the magnetics work and you know, the flip ring, the choke ring, and you know this energy just wanting to come in. I mean, there are so many different angles to look at, and one of the things that I always suggest to people is don't get stuck on one idea. What you need to do is have a look at as many different variations of it and find that which resonates with you. In terms of natural science and natural law, I have a tendency to lean more towards the fact that it was a natural occurrence in the form of, as outlined by Dave LaPointe in the primer fields, because you know we're dealing in an entirely different energy here now. The consciousness is awakening, and that's going to be sending out some reverberations through the universe, and that makes us rather attractive to particles and things like this meteor. Again, you had that, what was it, the DA-14 2012 meteor that was doing the close flyby, I think, within 17,000 kilometers of Earth. You know, with all, I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but with all the technology available, the best NASA could do was put up a little blip, like one of those old, you know, the old asteroids game from the 80s, going across the screen. You think they'd have a little bit better telescope shot of it, but then, you know, if you're trying to keep people in the dark, that's what you do. So, I mean, there are multitudes. But let's have a look at, I want to bring the Zodiac into this because I think this is the most critical thing.
Yes.
Now, and that's where we're going to get Santo going off here. I just want to kind of put a little preamble to it. Now, I had someone send me a picture, you know, me and tarot, right, tarot cards, of, it looked like a Rider-Waite deck with a tower. And, of course, on top of the tower was getting blown off. It looked like a crown, something that you see at the Vatican, getting blown off with a lightning bolt hitting it. Sound familiar? Right, lightning bolt hitting the Vatican. And, of course, the tower's coming down. And, of course, for those that know the tarot, it is the tower is card 16 in every deck. All the decks are the same, all the same cards, whether they're different pictures or whatever. But I thought it rather interesting that no sooner had the lightning struck the Vatican to say, Razzi, out. Jupiter's lost his rule, that within a couple of days we have card 17, which is the star in my deck, which is omens of comets or meteors coming across the sky. So what I see happening here is a play out, and literally a play-by-play of everything that was already pre-sent. Everything we're experiencing right now is already past. We're just traveling back through it. So, but I definitely want Santo to come in on the whole Zodiac thing, especially regarding this year. We had a great chat about this last night, so I really, and I know he talked a lot about it on Dark City Radio yesterday, so I'd love to have a bit of a tie in there, but that's how I see this meteor. It's just part of the grand game, so I'm not going to get distracted by too many things.
Santos, you there?
Yeah. Sorry. Yep, I am.
So why is this happening now? So let's look at it as Kate was saying. why this time now, all these things. And of course, we'll get right into as well with the rats, right? We're talking about Ratzinger, his resigning, and all this situation. And I also wanted to ask you before I forget, Santos. We talked about this in the Spanish show, but within I'm talking about Ophiuchus, right? The other constellation that's not paid attention to, or it's not used in the conventional zodiac astrology. So after that, just please touch a little bit on that. Why is it that constellation is not being used? Because what we know is that, if correct me if I'm wrong, it's the hunter, the serpent hunter. What's that called? The name of the of that constellation? Ophiuchus. Yes.
Ophiuchus. Orion.
It's known as the serpent hunter, or something like that, right? And obviously, that's been left out of our calculations, the zodiac calculations. So does that have any effect, and why is that been left out? But before we go into that, I'm just going off a little bit, but I want you to also answer that. But how does this all tie in at this time of our existence, Santos?
Okay. Look, the timekeepers that the controllers of this world recognize are the planets. Now, which planets? Well, they recognize the rulers of the signs. Jupiter was the ruler of the sign of Pisces. Saturn and Uranus are the co-regents of Aquarius. They know, and as I've explained, they know very well that Jupiter has left the building. He indicated that 6 hours after the Pope resigned, by he himself with his thunderbolts, because Jupiter Jesus is the god of thunderbolts. So they both left the building right there at the end of Pisces. We've been through a 50-year cusp where the two signs, their essences blend. So since 62, from 62 to 2012, that 50-year cusp of Pisces and Aquarius, we've lived under. And now it's all over. And how do we know that? Well, I ask you to do some research on 5 planets, the 5 big boys. And don't, I wouldn't use Mars or any of the faster planets, just Jupiter and above. When you look at Jupiter's orbit, it's 12 years, very significant. When you look at Saturn's, round it out to 30 years. Uranus is 84. Neptune is 168. Exactly double Uranus. Pay attention to that. And Pluto is 250 years. So obviously, 4 orbits of Pluto gives you 1,000 years, or let's say 992 years. Just 8 years short. Okay? Pay attention to that 8 years too, because all the other planets, the other 4, they have orbits of 1,008 years each. They have cycles. For instance, this is just for the listeners. If you've got pen and paper, it would be very handy. Once you jot down these very, very simple figures, there's only 5 figures you need to jot down, and meditate and do some research, you will understand the timekeepers and how they work. All of those 5 major biblical timekeepers, hermetic timekeepers, they were always known: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Since JC, well, I've explained in my presentations that JC is Julius Caesar. Yeah, that's the corporation that's ruled us and kicked our butts for the last 2,000 years. And they also have another C called JC, called the Julian calendar. Yeah, that's the JC that really turned up 2,000 years ago. And this is how it happens. There was a major conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in the year 4 BCE. Okay, pay attention to that date, 4 BCE. The Bible, in the first book of Luke, one of the Gospels, tells you that Jesus and his parents, Joseph and Mary, had to go down to Nazareth to register because Caesar Augustus, obviously they retrospectively put his name in the Bible. Caesar Augustus issued a declaration that all the world must be registered. Regi is the king. So everyone goes down to the towns where they were born to get registered, because Rome has got a tax that you need to pay eventually because you're registered. You'll find this stuff in the Bible, guys. Luke chapter 1 verse 2. And anyway, that it clearly says that this happened. Mary was pregnant. She went to Nazareth to get registered. Clearly it says when King Herod was alive. Well, he died in 4 BCE. That's 4 years before the 0 year that starts the Common Era. You know, the AD, which is really the Julian calendar, the real JC, hiding behind the whole apparatus. Now, since 4 BCE to 2012, that's 2016 years, guys. That's 2016 years. Write that figure down first. Remember that word because it's number, because it's a processional number. A half of that is 1,008 years. Now, we already discovered that Pluto is 16 years short of that 1,008. But the other 4 hit 1,008 years to perfection. And I'll give you the figures. These are the figures you need, okay? Saturn. In the last 2016 years, Saturn has done 72 revolutions or orbits. Stop right there. Stop right there. That's it. 72 is a precessional number. Precession drops back 1 degree every 72 years. I've done this in my presentation. 72 is a very important number. It's biblical, etc., etc. Of course it is, because the Bible is based on precession. So Saturn has done 72 orbits. Guess how many Jupiter's done? 84. 84. That's exactly how long 84 is the years that Uranus takes to do 1 revolution. Uranus has done 12. Neptune has done 6 orbits since the Julian calendar, since JC. Julius Caesar, the true Jesus Christ, the corporate God that we do obeisance to. That corporation is over. It had exactly 2016 years according to Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter. They know it. Everybody else don't. And that's how they do their timekeeping. It's all about astrology, folks. Peter will have another pope in about 23,000 years when Pisces comes back around, if we're stupid enough to let any other fiction interpose on our lives, which we won't, because we're free now and free forever. We will never have these corporations rule over us again. It's a joke.
Santos, and what about Ophiuchus? Why isn't that constellation taken into consideration in the zodiac?
It doesn't need to be. Simply doesn't need to be. If you have to have a 13-month system, that's fine. But it doesn't need to be. There's 12 30-degree segments along the ecliptic. Astrology, see, this is why I stress biblical astrology. This book by Ludwig B. Larson, Key to the Bible and Heaven, is probably one of the best astrological works you'll ever read. All of those figures I just read come from here. But in there he explains that astrology is based on the ecliptic, pure and simple. It's got nothing to do with anything else, any other mechanism. It's all about the planets and where they are on that path of the ecliptic. So the ecliptic begins at 0 degrees Aries, and every day is a degree thereafter, regardless of how much slippage, precessional slippage there is, and regardless of whether the sun is actually going through the foot of Ophiuchus when it's going through Sagittarius, Scorpio Sagittarius. There's about 20 degrees of Ophiuchus's foot. It's not necessary to include that because it's taken over by 30 degrees of the ecliptic. It's the rulership of 30 degrees and the element of fire, Sagittarius. And before that was the element of water in Scorpio. It's the elements that rule this. It's the elements that get their segment on the 30-degree ecliptic. Because as I have explained, astrology and all of this is based on light. And light, as it spirals through the universe and as it spirals inside of its toroidal fields, will always do this. It will always start the sine wave at Aries, at the equinox. It will go to a wave amplitude called a solstice, and then it'll go to another equinox to find balance, and then it'll do another solstice. There's always 4 polarities, and it always, in its fields, wherever it journeys, wherever light journeys in the universe, it always passes and makes a cardinal cross. And that is one equinoctial, which balances out the sine wave and light, because light seeks balance, and another one that disturbs the balance and pulls it out of its comfort zone and gives it amplitude, and that is the summer solstice and the winter solstice. And that's everything that's going on. And so that's how astrology is to be seen. Ophiuchus can have his foot in there all he wants. I mean, Orion's got his hand up there. I see it every night. Orion's actually got his hand in the ecliptic, holding on to the divine cross between Taurus and Gemini. So, and besides, Scorpio is the longest constellation. It's actually 60 degrees long. So it actually hogs all of Libra. Leo is massive. My sign, Aries, is only like about 19 or 20 degrees. It's a little midget, little lamb, you know. So they're all disproportionate. It's those images. They are seen there. They are figured to be there because that is the nature of the light as it traverses that part of the wave. And of course, the ecliptic is a wave. It's a wave field, you know. So it's all about light. Unless we understand that everything is a product of light, and we too are light bodies, our confinement dome is in the heart. We have a very, very special fiery photon in the center of our hearts, which centers us. And our field goes out, our Merkaba fields, and we have 2 equal and opposite forces, and that we are centered inside of. And our wave fields, our bodies are actually much, much larger, just like all of those planets. People can feel our bodies. We walk into people's bodies as we walk past them on the footpath. We feel their energy. We go through their bodies because our bodies go out for miles and miles and miles of magnetism that is actually... the reason being is because our bodies are just fields inside of fields inside of fields inside of magnetic fields. And it goes down fractally, probably forever, and it goes up fractally, probably forever.
Tony, Santos talks about that the controllers know that's going on, Tony. And we see that the rats are leaving the ship. Well, not really technically leaving the ship because Ratzinger just announced. Tony, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Carry on.
That he's not going to leave the Vatican City because he will be probably arrested or detained. So how do we tie all these things in that what just Santos has been talking about, and now we're seeing it here on the land, right? And as above, so below with the Ratzinger. And how do we tie that in, and how can we present this to people who still probably or maybe are not too clear on how the sovereign movement is, right? Because they're clearly saying it, you know, hey, listen, the moment that I leave my territory, you know, I'm no longer a sovereign. Or you could take it from a different perspective and say, well, this house of mine is, you know, I believe I'm not sure exactly who said this, but, you know, we can turn my property into, you know, an embassy or a sovereign state. Therefore, I don't need to obey, or, well, you can't do anything within my property. So how does that all tie in with what's going on with Ratzinger and his not leaving his ship, Tony?
Well, that's a massive ask to answer all those questions. But what I would point people to are these sort of things. I mean, there's been a plan for a long time to enact certain things throughout history so that there's a goal reached at the end of the duration of that period of time. Let's call it, looking at the Bible, for example. In other words, these things were laid into the Bible, and it's given to you in the form of a religion, or that it's given to you that way, that all these things are going to come to pass, and that this is going to happen, that's going to happen, that's going to happen. Well, there are many different aspects to it, but the easiest thing to explain is this is what we're seeing. We're seeing the revelations, and we're seeing the unfoldment of what has been put forward in the actual Bible. But it's not because, how can I put it? It's not given to you. It's given to you as a religious text, and it's not given to you in the way it should be interpreted. And that's where Santo gets into all the different aspects of the astrotheology behind it. At the end of the day, what's going on is there needed to be, or should I say, the elites wanted a way to be able to control the population and all of the human beings on Earth in a way that they would acquiesce and agree to. So this massive, massive plan, a long, long time ago, was put into being. Now, to understand some of the different aspects of this plan, you really need to do a lot of research, because it includes different legal systems, monetary systems, financial, all the different aspects, plus the religious situation, and many, many more things. Also universal law. It had to be put in a way where people willingly went along with the plan, because that's what they thought the plan was. It says it in the Bible, or it says it in the Quran, and therefore it has to be that, because that's why it says it in there, because this is this magical scenario playing out down here on Earth, and just because it's in our Bible, this is the way it's got to be. No, the point of the matter, the reality is, they are executing a plan. The plan is to introduce a completely controlled Orwellian New World Order, and it gets extremely complicated with all the technology, the equipment, the implications, how they're doing it, why they're doing it this way, and all the rest of it. But at the same time, we need to understand that there's an awakening going on in the planet. People are beginning to get switched on to the technology levels that we really have and what they actually say we have. So there's a definite plan emerging, and you can see all of the information around you if you but look. And this is, again, it was said in the Bible. It's all there if you care to see it, basically. And there will be those in those days who have the eyes to see, and it's right in front of you. But you might need to address every piece of the puzzle in individual pieces, rather than you need to learn about these things bit by bit by bit, and then you can start to piece them together. But as I keep saying, I've said it many times, you cannot repair a car if you don't know which bit's broken. It's no good walking up to somebody and saying, "Can you repair my car? I think there's something broke in it," when and the guy hasn't even looked at the car yet. You need to know, what is the car, what does it consist of, what's broken, what seems to be the symptoms, how can we fix it, and then get in there and replace that part. And it's the same with this plant. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. But in order to look at the whole project, you need to look at the larger scale rather than just a small scale, or indeed one piece of it. But that's my take on it. Anyway, it is the rolling out of the elite's plan to take over the people of the planet and all the lands of the planet. The problem is, as I said, we're waking up to it. So now there's a great rush on, and this is what I call the human race, because there's a race to the end. The end is, do we become conscious, realise we've all been had, and we have been had, or does the plan come to completion and we end up in a global Orwellian superstate / prison for a long, long time? And I don't fancy the latter. So I'm actually doing something about not allowing that to come to fruition. if that helps.
Okay. Kate, so
Hey.
how does this downfall of Ratzinger really affect the non-believers or the sleepy folks? How does that really affect, and how can you present to folks that perhaps, I know you guys do tons of shows and a lot of your audience is well educated in these topics, but perhaps some of our audience is not too well educated in the sovereign movement or leaving the system. So, it's very clear for us, obviously, that he's saying, look, hey, if I can be a sovereign, so can you. If I can have my house in this place here to be a place where you can't touch me, I have immunity, well, then that applies to everyone else as well. You can do it. So how do we explain that to folks, Kate?
Okay, well, first off, when you're dealing about about religions, you're dealing with something very personal with people, and something that has been so deeply ingrained into them by their parents, their grandparents, their friends, their peers, the church. Driving this whole concept, bullshit concept of hell. That if you go against this institution, somehow you will suffer greatly. I mean, this has been the modus operandi for the last couple of thousand years. If you don't go along with what we say, well, we'll burn you at the stake and, or hang you or something. What's happening now with the consciousness awakening, that's not so easy to get away with. But the bottom line is this. What people are going to be dealing with first and foremost is their own internal fears. And they better come to grips with it, because when you're dealing with an institution, especially one that's been so ingrained for so long as any of the religions, Christian, Judaism, Islam, I don't care, whatever they are, what you've got is an ingrained culture or cult within segmented parts of society. It's kept us all separate wonderfully, beautiful divide and conquer. So what people have to understand is that everything they were told from these supposed leaders was a load of crap. One of the things they do to sell things is to sell all these beautiful love pictures and, oh, Jesus is a loving being and God and all the rest of it. I don't know about you, but any God that needs to see their only child thrown up on a cross, tortured and bludgeoned and bleeding to death, and that's the only way that this God can see any sense of forgiveness, by drawing blood and must have a bloodlust fulfilled. I got real issues with that. That's not a loving God. I'm sorry. That's a God of war. So when people can finally let go of this, which is going to be tough, it's very easy to see what happens with the institution when the lead rapist, a.k.a. Joseph Ratzinger, Benny the Rat, Benedict 16, it's very easy to see what that individual, and again, this is nothing against that being, a very aberrated being that needs some serious healing, okay? But what we need to be very aware of is it's not so much him, because look at all the energy directed at him. No. It was the institution that created it. So we got to take the institution down. And when I saw, Benny go for a run, obviously just around the block, he didn't get too far. But when I saw him bolt from the building, my first reaction was, that's the institution. And that's symbolic of the institution. Now, if they are going to keep him in Vatican City, a country unto itself, a sovereign country, then that is going to be done through collusion with the Italian government, where Rome, the country, resides within. So we've got a lot of very, very touchy issues at hand here, where people had better be very careful. I'm talking politicians, especially in Italy. You better be very careful the choices you make, because those are the beds you're making, and you will lie in them. And the people are awakened, and they've had enough. We've all had enough. So once we see something like the Pope stepping down, and especially with lightning bolts right afterwards, and then meteors, and these are all pretty cool signs of the inevitable. What Santo has been talking about is the inevitable. What Tony is talking about are potentials of the inevitable, but the inevitable is going to occur. We have come through a very, very dark time. We have went to the very depths of evil so that we may have a perspective of what we don't want as a collective creator, co-creator, And I don't know about you guys, but I've kind of had my fill of this nightmare. And I've seen all the evil I need to see to know that I never want to see it again. And I've got a perspective of knowing what good really is. Now I can just get into the singularity of that. And truly, the balance to get neutral is to find the good in evil and the evil in good. Because sometimes, now keep this in mind, when you think you're doing good for someone by helping them, you're actually hurting them. Because what you've done is not allowed them to have that experience. So it's a trespass and free will choice, and vice versa. It works both ways. So when you think you're doing a good deed, you may be doing something evil. And when you're doing something evil, you might be doing something good. Because I'll tell you right now, it was institutions like Rome and the Illuminati and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers that woke your sorry ass up. So I think that's pretty good.
Kate, but wait a minute. But I understand it. As a matter of fact, I was speaking to a friend about this. So then what happens to these folks that do healing work? So now you're interfering with perhaps an illness or something, and you're changing that path where that person was supposed to go, and perhaps that illness would have woken him up. But now you changed that reality. So what happens there?
No, Johnny. What you're doing there is, if someone has a free will choice to be healed, that is the free will choice of that individual. So you're not changing a damn thing. You see, this is what people need to understand. They've got to start taking responsibility for their own choices instead of looking around to see what so and so is doing here and here, and I got to be cool and do what they do. That's fine. You can stay in the slave trap if you want, or you can decide to finally be who you are, dance your dance, understand your sign so that you can know thyself, and that includes the Mayan, that includes the Western astrology, that includes all of it, right? And I was kind of hoping that maybe Santo or Tony can jump on Bible code a little bit as far as what's contained in there, because what I'm seeing unfolding before me right now is that perfect resonance for me. What I believe or know to be real for me is the present now as it unfolds. We're kind of going backwards in this, and we're reversing out of here. I've talked about that word before. Re-ver-se. Re, son of God, ver, from truth, verily. Se, which is Latin for himself, herself, itself, the Holy Trinity. And that's what we're doing. We're reversing out of here, reversing. And, but getting back to the people, just to kind of tie up that one thing that you did say, it's going to be up to the individual if they can let the institution go. If they can't let the institution go, then they are guilty of aiding and abetting in all the crimes of church and state that have been done in the institution's name. If you're flowing money at it, you're paying for the bullets that are murdering children. You're paying for the hush money for that kid, or those thousands of kids not only getting murdered but getting raped, hush-up money and all the rest of it. You're aiding and abetting in an international crime. Karma will come for you, I promise. Best to change your way. Make the free will choice to stop aiding and abetting in that, at least.
Santos.
Yeah. How are you, Johnny?
Okay. This weekend we had elections here in Ecuador, right? Presidential elections and assemblymen and all this kind of nonsense stuff. And
yep.
I don't know if it's unfortunately, but or whatever. But I went and I voted. I mean, we over here is mandatory, and you need to have an ID thing. And if you want to do something, they always ask you for this. But anyway, I went anyway. So where I went, it was in this sort of poor area, right? This area where I had to go because of a couple of years ago I registered down there. Anyway, but the reason I'm telling you this is because when I went into this place of vote, there was thousands of people, and part of me felt very uncomfortable there. Uncomfortable in the sense that the energy of the people there was very low. And I don't want this to get confused with, I'm discriminating against perhaps poor people or different people. But I did feel different, and I did feel uncomfortable. And that energy there was very low. It was almost like an unconscious little world there. Everyone was just in a run rush. Where do I press the button? Where do I go and sign? Just talking nonsense. And obviously, me as an observer, I'm watching all this, and I'm, taking my own conclusions here. But what about those folks? I mean, we're in the era of Aquarius. Things are changing. But what about those folks that are not changing? Or what about the folks that Santos, that Kate just mentioned, that, you know, if they're going to continue to support this criminal entity, this criminal organization, then you know what? You're guilty. So, in other words, how does compassion also fall into that, in that situation, Santos?
Yeah, good question, Johnny. I guess it'll be taken care of by the universe, you know. We also have missed out many lifetimes. Many other past lifetimes we just missed out because we just weren't awake enough. That's how the cycle of necessity works. So I wouldn't be overly sad. That's nature. Everything gets its chance. The atoms that make up our soul, the subtle atoms of our etheric and astral bodies, and that body that I described before, those never die. The body can, but the rest of the multidimensional part of us that is living contemporaneously at the same time as this is existing forever and always has. So they just get to work it out on another plane. According to all the Hermetists, and even in the Bible, it indicates it clearly. That they will go to another plane. Why is it, of course, that churchgoers say, "Oh, he's died, he's gone to heaven"? You know, they know because they got it from the Bible. Well, heaven, what's heaven? Well, there's no postal address. It's a condition, and so you know, they haven't reached the heaven yet, and the heaven is the head, the heaved up place. So they haven't reached there in the sense that they haven't, you know, probably haven't raised the beautiful Kundalini oil up to the optic thalamus, or probably because they haven't ascended the 7 heavens, which are the 7 consciousness levels inside our cerebrospinal system. Now, the cerebrospinal system, as I've discussed before, has 7 magnetic centers, chakras, that spin around. That's what the Hindus call them, chakras, because they're wheels that spin around. And they are the little vortices that are in our body. Our body is made up of gazillions of vortices, and they all fit in to each other fractally. Dan Winter calls that, help me guys, what does he call that when all the fractals merge together? Convergence, fractal convergence or something. Anyway, check out Dan Winter's stuff on that. But it's true. All these Merkaba fields come together in unison. It's an orchestrated like concerto, a symphony. And that's what our bodies are. And so whether or not we make it in the sense of salvation and the salt that needs to ascend so that we can be an ascended one, it's not my business really. I've done my best to help my family, my friends, the public in general. I've done my best to alert them to the fact that this is our purpose in life. It is, you know, to look after the transmigration of our souls so that we can have a happy return to unconditioned consciousness by changing the polarities of the 7 chakras from vices to virtues. And it's a big job. You got to walk some yards to do that. You know, you don't just do a little bit of yoga and I don't know, change your diet. You know, it's not about that. It's a way. It's a path. You know, I play flamenco guitar. Now, you can't just look at some music and go, oh yeah, I know how to read music and learn flamenco. No. The gypsies in Spain, the gitanos, because there's 2 kinds of people, payos and gitanos. Payos are the secular, regular people. Gypsies have always been, you know, apart from them. And they always say, you have to live this life. You cannot play the flamenco guitar unless you live it. And I know what that means, because I've lived it. So it's the same with this path. It's an eternal path of glory. We are destined for glory, are we not? I am. I don't want anything less than that. I don't want anything less than glory and riches of spiritual kind and just freedom, and to get away from all fictions and expose them wherever I see them in wherever.
Tony.
Yes, Johnny, I'm here.
A friend of mine said some words very harsh, and just Santos sort of reminded me what he said. Not exactly what Santos said, but Santos said, well, it's basically none of my business if they don't want to change. I mean, he's done his job and he's done his own work, his personal work. But this person that I was speaking to, he's a very smart guy, very centered guy. He doesn't hurt anyone, keeps to his business. But he says some harsh words. He said, Johnny, there's a lot of people on this earth that are just eating up the resources, and you could just give them beer, soccer, and religion, and they'll be happy, and that's it. And basically what he was telling me is they're useless. And he didn't say it in so many words, but he was sort of like, if maybe they shouldn't be here, This is harsh word, because we can look at it from a different perspective and say, hey, listen, how can you say that? You're not being human. You want to do what Bill Gates is saying, let's just kill 5 billion people and just leave a little bit of people. So what is your idea of this, or your perspective on that, Tony?
I'm just trying to think of the best way to go with this. Well, let's put it like this. Everybody has been taken into a hypnosis. We've all been conditioned as a human race. So, I mean, there are those people that don't want to know and don't want to learn and just, I don't want to hear it and all the rest of it. And I think it's those sort of people that are, all right, I suppose we could say pretty much lost. I don't mean lost in a physical sense. I mean just, some people, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It shouldn't be about making the horse drink. It should be about the horse realizing it's thirsty and it needs water. And it's the majority of people don't realize how they're under hypnosis, and they're under spells, they're under hypnosis, they're under mind control, they're being affected on many different levels. So in the same way as as accepting that, we want to try and give people the opportunity to wake up. In other words, if I said to you, you could have this, and you could have free energy, and you could travel the stars, you could do this, and you wouldn't have to work, and you could still be a benefit to society by bringing in new things and, being of use to people, and enjoy it at the same time, and have unlimited luxury, and everything you could ever possibly wish for is there for you. I think that is an admirable goal, because that's what it is. That's the truth. As long as we get enough people on this planet to wake up, we can have heaven on earth, or I'm using the word heaven loosely. Santos describes the heavens within us, which it is. But the point is, if we didn't try, and I use an analogy about a guy standing on a railway line, you look, this guy's deaf and dumb, and he's walking along this railway line, and there's a train coming. Now you see the train, you see the guy, you see the result of you not doing anything. This guy's going to get splattered all over the place. Now, would you help that guy and say, "Oi, you might want to get off the railway track because there's a dirty great train coming"? And when he sees that train, he's going to go, "Oh, wow!" And he's going to jump off the railway track sharpish, because he's not going to actually want to get squished. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to just say to people, hey, you might want to get off that railway track because there's a dirty great train coming. You might want to not get squished. And it's the same thing. Some people are going to go, oh, I'm not listening, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be squished. Some people are going to go, crikey, I didn't realise. Thanks, mate. Cheers for that. God, I'm so glad you told me I was going to be squished. And there you go. It's really that simple. So, yeah, there are some people that aren't going to listen and aren't going to make it through, and there are also lots of people who are going to make it through. But the quicker the more people wake up, the sooner, the less people need to get squished, and the more brilliant it's going to be in this new golden age as we move into it together. So I hope that helps the question a little.
Yes. Kate, the question for you is that, so why do we do this? You know, Santos, you, me, Tony, why do we do this? If we are sort of kind of preaching that, look, you got to take the rein of your horse, and you got to take control of your life. You got to do it. So up to what point are we kind of imposing on people, you know? Because some people have said to me, he goes, Johnny, you know, this is your truth. Yeah, don't bother me. You know, my life is okay. You know, I have a house. I make money. I love my family. I don't owe anything to anyone. I don't hurt anyone. So why are you trying to impose your belief system on me? So how do we address that, Kate?
Well, okay. I just want to finish off a couple of things that Tony had said there. You know, you got these people walking on the track, and yeah, there's going to be people turn to you and say, "Oh, I didn't see that," and thank you and all the rest of it. And there's going to be others that are the ones you're just talking about, Johnny, are the ones that are going to look at you and say, "Screw off." Okay, I'll screw off. Again, the thing is, when we awoke to see the trap that we're in, and I'm not talking just a physical one. Seriously, look around. Is this your idea of heaven? Really? Oh, and of course you can go to church and they'll promise you heaven. All you got to do is fill this little bucket up every Sunday, and you can buy your way there. Apparently God's just got this real bad thing about money. Can't apparently create it or save it for himself or herself, itself, whatever. So I always kind of found that a bit, you know, suspect. You know, and the people you just talked about there, the ones that I call the lazy boy people, you know, they're comfy, they're in their lazy boy, they got their feet up, they don't realize anything's wrong, they don't think anything's wrong, they're quite content to give up, you know, 90% of their income, because that's what it works out to. And as this, you know, game progresses, as it starts to unravel, you know, you'll have people, the elites, talking about, well, the money system's gonna, you know, we don't want it to crash, and or now they're talking about they want it to crash, but they don't, because that just undermines their whole game. What they want to keep in control is the fear that it could, and quite frankly, the sooner the better to get rid of this. There was another point I was going to make there when you were talking about, you know, Bill the Shill Gates. In eugenics and genocide, you know, they're talking about 6 billion people, and when Tony was talking there, and yourself, talking about the useless eaters, well, isn't it funny that these guys, based on their whole program, are the ones that created the useless eaters in the first place? So therein lies the true evil. What we've got are a group of psychopaths that are so aberrated on a spiritual level, they are so dark, that they're not even aware, but they cannot create either. The only thing they can do is take from creation. So what they do is they get a population of a planet, either here or wherever, and they get everyone conditioned to the point where they're creating all of this, you know, stuff for them, meanwhile destroying their home planet. I don't know if did you hear about Fukushima? Okay, they did an effective kill. That was a planet kill. All right, so we got to get some stuff sorted out real quick, and it's only technologies like Hutchinson has, Eric Dollard, Shaziz, and Mirhan Kesh. These are the kind of technologies that can clean that crap up, because I'll tell you right now, that don't get cleaned up, you're dead anyway. So all the bitching in the world ain't going to save you, and that includes all these elites that think they're safe and the rest of it. But isn't it funny that they go about controlling a population to steal from them? And then, of course, it's their fault because they're useless eaters, and then it's okay for them to destroy them. So, I don't know about you, but that is pure psychopathy to me. That is an aberration of evil at a level I can't even fathom. You know, it melts my mind. But again, the comfy ones you're talking about, Johnny, they can do whatever the hell they want. I'm not their master. I am my own.
It's interesting what you said, because it's when I was telling Santos about when I went to this area to vote, it was a pretty poor area, and I can see how easily there are folks that could be manipulated. You know, they're just so easily manipulated. I could have just been standing there myself and just started talking about certain topic and probably influence one of them to maybe change their vote. I mean, because I could just sense it, how easily. But it is true what you just said, that yes, they've created that. They created that mindset on people, and if there's karma, well, I'm sure they're gonna have to pay for that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, Santos. Um,
Yes.
we have a few minutes left, Santos. You there? I don't see you. Okay.
Yeah. I'm here.
Okay, so we have a few minutes left, and I want to take this few minutes also to promote the project that we're doing, which is we finally got the title of the movie done. Guys, I didn't share this with you, Kate and Tony, but the title of the film that Santos and I will be doing is called Syncretism, the Science of Light. That's the title. That's the official title of the movie. We've created a web page. It's called bonaccithefilm.com. We finished it. It's all in English. You can go in there. You can see a bio of Santos for those folks that probably they're just starting to know Santos, about our production company, and also about the film itself. Shortly, we will have a little trailer, another trailer, where we are going to show exactly a little mini clip of what this film will be about. But Santos, I think you are the guy, well, you are the protagonist here in this film, to share with our audience just what can they expect in this fantastic film that all the pieces are starting to put together, and that we will create in just a few months from now. Syncretism, the Science of Light. Santos.
Well, we're going to put everything that I've ever presented in 21 presentations, all of that information, and not necessarily all the bits of data and facts, but all of what's contained in there. We're going to include portions of that in this first production. And hopefully we will be able to put, make people understand, in parentheses, we'll make them understand that this is a project. It's an ongoing project, and this is just the introduction. And then we're going to have, part 2, 3, 4, 5, and on it goes, depending on many things. But we will learn how the solar system works. We will learn how everything is pinned to the processional numbers, and all of the books, whether it's Hindu books, I've proven this and I know this, all of this deals with procession. And we're going to show that. We're going to show it with graphics. So we're going to show how the equator of the Earth extends out to the ecliptic, and the ecliptic is 360 degrees. And we start at Aries. We always start at Aries at the top of the head. And we go through and we do the round of light in every school and system of science and every religion, and we show how everything is based on that 360 degrees and the planets that travel on there. Everything. All of our destinies, the whole lot of it, it's all there. We're going to see that. We're going to see how that is also replicated in our beautiful holographic bodies, fractal bodies. And we're going to see the Zodiacs that are everywhere in the body. Goodness, lots of practical wisdom, how to... people will have the basics, just with that one documentary, the basics of astrology. They'll have the basics of all theologies, and they'll have fundamental grasp of how light works, according to guys like Walter Russell, Edward Leeds Skalnin, and the people who really, really knew firsthand through experiments and stuff like that. So it's going to be a whole syncretic, all of our thoughts and knowledge and thought systems all in one, unified. It's doable. I've done it. Others have. So,
Santos, two questions. Why is this important for people to understand in this film? Maybe people will say, and I'm actually here criticizing, not criticizing, but questioning, right? But many people will say, well, Santos has done, 21 presentations, all the information is there. So why do we need to see this film? Or why should we donate money or help for this project if we have the videos for free? So that's one question. The second question is, why the title, The Science of Light? Santos.
Okay. Because everything's based on light. That's where all of the subjects originate, from light. And so we can go to the source. I'm going straight to the source. We've had enough of experts with their opinions about effects. Global warming, overpopulation. My opinion is let's exterminate back with vaccinations and all of that crap. From now on, syncretism will be a resource like an encyclopedia that people can go to for pure truth and no more stupidity. No more stupidity. This is a place where people can go to learn truth, the highest truths, only truths. The first question, what was the first question again? Well, it will be a resource. The first present documentary will introduce people, like I've done with my presentations. Sure, people say there's 21 presentations on there. I haven't even scratched the surface. That's 1/100th of the notes that I have surrounding me. If I could show you my camera, my room with all the, all the notes I have. These are just notes I've got for. These are just notes I've got for presentations that I'm preparing, photocopying stuff, all of these. The way I do things now, I'm doing things like this. I just do a circle and I put my notes on there. Let me show you. I've got hundreds of these. Still I haven't. These are my notes now. That's how I keep my notes. Okay. There's about 40 presentations just on there, guys. So. Yeah, 21 presentations, that's nothing. What we're going to do is, this will have better and more information than any of the other schools put together. This will be, once we get part 1 and part 2, and on and on and on, this will have more information than any other resource on the planet. Okay. Guarantee it. Promise you that.
I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said this will be an encyclopedia for you to go as a resource to say, okay, so what's going on in my life? Let me take a look at this encyclopedia, this book, or in this case, in this film, and see how I can interrelate that into my life. Is that?
Yeah, I'm developing new ways of teaching astrology.
Okay.
Based on the graph, I will never depart from that sine wave. The secret of creation, as Walter Russell said, is in the wave. And he has pictures of the wave. Very conveniently, he has the same wave that I have in the back of his book. And so what people will have, there's the sine wave. Can you see that down there? That's the wave. That's all you need. That wave tells you everything. And that's what it'll be based on. So what we will do is we will make some graphics with that wave and how that wave connects to everything. Your body, you're going to understand how the skies work. You're going to understand, you will go up, you'll be able to see Aries and you'll know what it means, and you know that that's the start of right ascension, and you'll be able to place all the constellations there, all the 48 constellations you will get to know, and you'll get to know how they exist in your body contemporaneously as a microcosm. And then we will build a website where people can click on, and they will see why it is that we have astrological terms like exaltation, domicile, terms, and all of those things. I've got a totally new way of teaching that so people can visualize it. It's going to be visual. You won't have to go and consult big books and text. You'll be able to do all this from the head. And just with this one documentary. I promise that. And the other thing was that even though I have many lovely graphics in my presentations, there is nothing quite like having well-directed and well-presented graphics which are usually like 100 times better than a presentation that you do to, say, a crowd of people, because it's like it's done properly with no hiccups and it's seamless, so people will have, say, 2 hours of pure knowledge and understanding. Then they can go off and make their own wisdom out of that.
Well, I want to share with you, Santos. I had a meeting yesterday, Sunday, with this very interesting woman, and I think this is relevant to share with our audience as well, because not only will we make this film here in Ecuador, because the idea is to bring Santos to Ecuador in April and have him stay here for a month and shoot this film. But I'm also preparing, and this is something that I've been thinking about, and as we've talked about this before, the universe begins to conspire and the right people begin to appear, and this woman appeared out of nowhere, saw one of our interviews and said, you know what, we need to teach this in the universities. So I'm lining up a conference for you, Santos, in 2 universities when you get to Ecuador, so that you can speak this, the science of light, to not only students in 2 universities here in Ecuador, but also to the professors, to the teachers, the teachers that teach science, so they understand this. So I'm very excited about that because, the universities are pretty close-minded when it comes to pseudoscience, as they categorize astrology. But the way you're presenting this material, it's very hard to question or argue, whether this is false, because you tie in the Bible, which is their sacred book, in a religious point of view, right? So I'm excited about that. So I wanted to share that with you and to folks to help us with your donations. I put the page that we just created, bonacithefilm.com. There you can make your donations to get Santos down here and to really create this fantastic project so we can launch it to the world. And also, this could be the start of perhaps the beginning of teaching this science in universities, so the students can begin to look at things from a different perspective. Santos, we only have a few minutes left. I want to get your last thoughts about anything that we talked about today about this project, and then I want to shoot over to Kate and Tony. Santos.
I would like to say, friends, if you're interested in this good knowledge, I am training people weekly at my webinars every Friday. If you join at the School of the Holy Science website, so I probably won't be able to do it when we're in Ecuador, so there's probably only about 6 weeks left, and I'm very, very keen to train people, astrologically, how to find their debilities and how to find propensities that, in their body, weaknesses that might cause ill health later on in life, and many, many other things. Weekly I'm teaching this, and people are writing back to me that are joining the webinar, and they are getting practical use, the benefits from it. So why am I saying this? Well, because this is the most important thing for me now. I really would love to train people and show them how simple astrology is. It's just so simple, the fundamentals, and so that we can get an army of truth warriors teaching this stuff and helping mankind. So we don't go to doctors for treatments anymore, and we do get cures, and we do bless our brothers and humanity and have health and peace and happiness, because that's all astrology purports to do. Thank you.
Santos, thank you very much, my friend. Again, that page is www.bonacithefilm.com. Thank you, Santos. Kate, are you there, Kate?
Yeah.
Okay, so any last thoughts on your end, Kate?
Yeah, thanks again for having us, and I am ecstatic about what's up and coming with Santo, and I can't stress either how important this information is to people. I've been lucky being able to hang around him for as long as I have and picked up what I have and a fuller and better understanding. And you really do get a better handle on yourself and on your existence and who you are. I mean, the game is to know thyself, and there's nowhere else you're going to find it. It gives you the roadmap to within, and Sando does it in such a way that it's very, very easy for people to understand. And I don't know of anyone else with as much passion about it. So, I mean, that's a double bonus. But again, Johnny, thanks so much for, again, every Monday, this is awesome, where we can come and just discuss, pertinent matters of the day. And much love for that. And that's all I have to say. And thanks for having us.
Yeah, and don't forget also to visit Kate, Tony, and Santos' page. Well, I include myself in there as well, Syncrenicity.com. You can see all the stuff that we're working on, and Santos and Kate and Tony have been doing as well. Kate, thank you very much. Tony.
Thank you.
Tony.
Hey, Johnny.
Okay, so any last words, Tony? Before we only have a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like, I'd like to mirror what Kate said. Thank you very much for having us. It's great to be actually, to get the opportunity to speak to lots more people, which is what it's all about. If we can get the information to the people, they can make their own minds up. And obviously shows like yours do an incredible amount to do just that, which is why we're so pleased to be here with you. It's wonderful what you're doing as well. Let's all support each other is the actual... the message, if you like. If I could say anything, I said, it's like we'll all pull together. Wow, we can do so much stuff if we only knew we could do it. If you knew you could cure yourself of cancer, and things like this, then not only do you cure yourself of cancer, you can go around and tell everybody else, and they can cure themselves too. So you empower people, and it's that knowledge that has been hidden away from us, and that's what we're all trying to do. QLP, all the different sites that we've got, including Syncrenicity. The fact of the matter is we're trying to create a university of knowledge and empowerment. So, if you don't like knowledge or you don't like empowerment, football and all that sort of can easily be got in a local area near you. But if you are about empowering yourself, then there you go. This is how to do it, and listen to this information, and we'll help teach and empower everybody to do the best that they can.
Yes. Okay, Tony, thank you very much. And also don't forget synchronicity.com. Visit the page, and you can see all the stuff that's going on there. Thank you, Tony. Okay, that's going to do it for us, folks. One last reminder, go into our Facebook page, give us a like, QL Television, our YouTube channel, QL Television. Subscribe so you get all the videos, all the programming that we do here in our channel, and also visit our webpage, qltelevision.com. And we ask you as well to help us with your donations for this film with Santos Bonacci. Just keep in mind that Hollywood is not going to give us $15 million to do film, and nor is ABC or CBS or NBC going to sign us up to do a series of programming. This has to come from us and from your donations and your kind help. That's going to do it for us. I'll see you tomorrow for another edition of The Truth Hour. Ciao.